What's happening? I hope you're all well. So, before we begin, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Please consider this the opinion from a complete stranger online. Please be responsible when competing in the markets. So, Daniel Dubois destroys Anthony Joshua in 5 rounds. Let's talk about it. Now, for those of you who placed a bet like myself for this fight simply not to go the distance, you made money out of this situation. You made money out of this situation, which is what this channel is all about. Making profit out of events. And that's what this channel, as I previously stated, is all about. So, Daniel Dubois, one of the key factors in this fight. Daniel Dubois has punching power. Anthony Joshua has punching power. Both of them have shown fragility. One of them has definitely shown the propensity to quit. The other has shown questionably the propensity to quit. You know, Anthony Joshua against Andy Ruiz the first time. That's not a clear and cut thing. It's arguable. Both have shown punch resistance issues, or at least that neither of them has a glass jaw. Neither of them has an iron jaw. Let me just reiterate. Both have shown that neither has an iron jaw. I wouldn't say they have glass jaws, but neither has an iron jaw. So when you've got two fighters, both with power, both with vulnerability, both who have shown that they're willing to be aggressive, you have the ingredients for a fight that is not going to go the distance. And that is why I argued to simply place a bet on this fight not going the distance. So one of the things that became key to me when this fight was announced was the jab of Daniel Dubois. Now, Anthony Joshua has the longer reach. Anthony Joshua is a more versatile fighter. But the jab of Daniel Dubois is an instinctually phenomenal shot. It's a power shot in its own right. And I believed that if Daniel Dubois could get the jab popping, it could put Anthony Joshua in his box, you know, that ramrod walking stick, but it could also, in and amongst itself, hurt Anthony Joshua, and it did. He was hurt with a jab in round 2, and he was dropped by a delayed reaction from a jab, I believe, at the start of round 3 or round 4. I think it might be round 4. So the jab, a key weapon, and it was constantly hitting Anthony Joshua. Daniel Dubois was bouncing and punching off the bounce. And the bounce, it's quite an amateur. A lot of amateurs do this, but it does help you get into your rhythm. So what Daniel Dubois did well in this fight is he established that jab. Yes, Anthony Joshua, longer reach. Yes, Anthony Joshua, taller, rangier. But if you've watched Kell Brook versus Terence Crawford, as long as that fight lasted, we saw timing can overcome. You know, the timing of a jab can overcome a reach deficiency or disadvantage, a speed disadvantage. And that's exactly what happened in this fight. Daniel Dubois has a slower jab than Anthony Joshua. Daniel Dubois has shorter arms than Anthony Joshua, but Daniel Dubois was beating Anthony Joshua to the jab. And that's what happens when you are a fighter with a good instinctual jab, and timing. Timing beats speed. So Anthony Joshua was getting constantly pinged by a long, raking, powerful jab of Daniel Dubois and getting hurt with it. And that jab was setting everything up. Daniel Dubois also, his continuing resurgence of spirit was a key factor in this fight, because Daniel Dubois has been accused of quitting, and he has quit. He quit against Joe Joyce and he quit against Alexander Usyk. He wasn't bludgeoned to the canvas. He voluntarily went down and chose not to get back up in those fights. But against Jarrell Miller, he was under the cosh. He was under pressure. It looked like he might fold. His body language not looking great. But he stuck in there and he got the stoppage. Filip Hrgović was pinging him. He stuck in there and he got the stoppage, albeit on cuts. But against Anthony Joshua, he was hurt. He was hurt in that 5th round. His leg did a funny dance. Did he quit? No. He decided to shoot it out with Anthony Joshua. And he actually looked like the veteran in there. He remained calm. He still kept his stance and composure. And he ended up getting the stoppage. So, but the point I'm trying to make is he showed heart. You know, he got hurt in there and he showed heart. Against Miller, he showed heart. Against Hrgović, he showed heart. So his resurgence of spirit is there for all to see. So we can't assume that Daniel Dubois now is going to quit. As gamblers, we can't assume that when the going gets tough, he's going to quit. We have to look at Daniel Dubois with new eyes. Daniel Dubois also demonstrated his punching power. He is a devastating puncher. He's not a snappy, speedy puncher or even particularly precise, but his punches are heavy. His punches are heavy. And so every punch is like getting hit with a brick. And Anthony Joshua was not able to handle the power. Even the punches that weren't landing flush were hurting Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua for me, and in fact, I'm going to bounce back to Daniel Dubois because I think the youth of Daniel Dubois really played a factor in this fight. You see, what Dubois did to Joshua used to do to other people. You know, it was very much like almost like a passing of the torch, because I see the way that Dubois was dismantling Joshua was the way that Joshua used to dismantle people on the come up. And Joshua's never been beat like that before. So you have to consider this. You have to consider the fact that the Daniel Dubois' youth played a significant role, because when you're younger, right, you are springier, your fast twitch muscle fibers are twitching, your brain command to action performed is performed with less delay. In other words, if you tell your brain to do something, the gap between you telling your brain to do something and you actually doing it, there's less delay time when you're younger. When you're older, brain command to action perform time increases and there's more of a delay because your body is slowly breaking down over the years. And you know, in day-to-day life, if you work an office job, it's not really gonna impact you until maybe your 60s or your 70s. But if you're an athlete and you're working at world level and it's fine margins, these split-second brain command, action, perform, reaction, and delay time is crucial and critical. Daniel Dubois at 27 is around his peak physically. So when he commands his brain to do something, his body does it in quick time. But when you start to get into your 30s, that starts to decline. So you can be 35 and look like a physical specimen, but these intricate details in your body mechanics that are slowly breaking down over time, it's the small details that make a big difference. So you can look like a physical specimen when you're 40 years old, but when you command your brain to do something, your reaction times are slower, no matter how good your six-pack looks. Yes, you get muscle maturity, but that doesn't have anything to do with your reaction time. So, in other words, in layman's terms, Anthony Joshua's fighting with his hands down low, and a low lead left. And when he was in his 20s, he knew that he would see the punches coming and he could step back. But Anthony Joshua in his mid-30s is fighting with a low left lead, fighting with a low guard, a low stance. You know, his hands are low, and he's thinking, okay, you know, when the punches are coming, I've always been able to step back and get out of the way. But he's older now, and his brain command action perform time is slower. So he's not getting out of the way. And he's got a young, hungry lion in front of him who's throwing punches in bunches with that sprightly youth. So youth is so important. Yes, when you get older, you must compensate with technical skill. So when you're younger, you've got those physical attributes, but as you get older, you need to start to refine your technical skill. That's why fighters like Foreman, Mayweather, James Toney, they could all fight on well into their 40s. Anthony Joshua has not refined his technical skill to that level. He has refined it, but not to the degree that he would need to define it to continue fighting into his 30s and early 40s. And I think Anthony Joshua is past his athletic peak. I believe that was about 7 years ago. He's not fully washed up, but he is past his peak in my opinion. So where does this leave Anthony Joshua? Let's talk about what he did wrong. Anthony Joshua, for me, has made a lot of money in the game. I don't know, I don't see his bank account, I'm estimating, okay? Anthony Joshua, for me, has achieved a lot in a small space of time, late starter to the game. Don't forget Daniel Dubois was probably boxing when he was like 5 years old or something, you know? Anthony Joshua, for me, when you're older sometimes, you can't get yourself up for things with the same enthusiasm. I battle with this sometimes. Like, when you're young, everything's new challenge. You haven't seen it, been there, done it before. And when you're older, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna go for that run. I've done it so many times. Am I really bothered what time I get? Not really, because I'm in my 30s now. This is me personally, I'm in my 30s. You know, I probably have peaked athletically. I can still perform at the same level as when I was in my mid-20s, but, you know, if I don't, does it really matter? Like, I feel like, I don't know. It's like, you get yourself up for it every now and then like you used to, but there's this sometimes, not always, but sometimes there's this thing of, you know, I've done it. I can't force the desire as much as when this was all new to me. I get that feel from Anthony Joshua in that fight. So the reason I say that is because when you're in boxing, if you're in a run, let's take athletics, running for example, and you don't feel up for it like you used to when you were younger, you know, that's one thing. But if you're boxing and you don't feel up for it like you used to, you're in trouble. Like, you are in trouble. Because when someone's coming at you and you don't feel up for it like you used to, they're trying to take your head off. And for me, that was Anthony Joshua in this fight. He couldn't get up for it like he used to. And Daniel Dubois was just coming to take his head off. like a bull in a china shop. And for me, when you're at the point where you're being tested, but you haven't got it in you to get up for it, when you're getting tested and you haven't got it in you to get up for it like you used to, that's when you start hitting the canvas. That's when you start touching down. That's when you start not, you could grab hold. And I'm not saying Joshua as a person, just him on his own, anyone. You could be grabbing hold, trying to ride out the storm, but instead your back's against the ropes and you're just pulling the guard up and you're half hoping the ref steps in and stops it, and you can, flail your arms up like, why are you stopping it? But deep down you're happy it's over. That's what can happen as you get older. Okay? So, in my opinion, Anthony Joshua to me looked like someone who had one foot in, one foot out the game, and it almost like he forced himself to try and get up for it, because you see how he had the old Anthony Joshua white kit on, white glove, all white gloves, white shorts, white boots, walking out in Wembley Stadium, a bit like David Haye against Tony Bellew in his last fight. Sometimes these fighters, they try and roll back the years, and they try and roll back the years and they can't do it. Hi. They can't do it. They try and roll back the years and they can't do it. They almost psychologically try and bring back the old them. I think Dillian Whyte might have done that in one of his fights. Like, he had the mohawk cut in one of his recent fights, and he tried to bring that back. Fighters, sometimes they will try and bring back, like, not just the old them mentally, but the old them physically. And I felt Joshua did that a little bit. So I feel like Joshua, long story short, I have kind of flailed the point a bit, but long story short, I don't think that he necessarily has it in him anymore like he used to, the appetite for the game. And if that's where you're at, then you're nearing the end of the road, whether you like it or not. And I think maybe sometimes it's better that you retire from the game than the game retires you. So, I hope that he's invested his money well, done good with his money, and enjoyed his time in the game, and understand that you can't always achieve what you want to achieve, and sometimes it's not even down to you. So many small details, man. When you get to the top of the game, anyone can beat anyone on any given day, and sometimes it's not even really down to you whether you achieve what you set out to achieve. It's like the small details. Undisputed, your opponent wakes up with a cold and you go on to be undisputed, and that was the difference. You just don't know. But he did well. I hope that he considers retirement. Daniel Dubois, the world's his oyster. Heavyweight boxing is a minefield. Daniel Dubois, there are fighters out there that I pick to beat him. There's fighters out there that I would pick to beat Daniel Dubois. Heavyweight boxing is just that anyone can beat anyone. Styles make fights. So, but really and truthfully, as gamblers, I think that when you look at the styles and you look at the way that those two come together, that fight was never going the distance, people. Anyway, let me know what you think. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment. Hit the notification bell so you get a notification when I make a new video. If you appreciate my work and want to leave a donation, there's a link for that in the description. With that, enjoy the rest of your day. See you on the next one.